Hey everybody, Steven here, and today we're looking at Helldivers 2 running on the ROG Ally. With this, I'm going to showcase the various settings that I have. It's pretty standard here just because with this being, it's powerful, but it's not as obviously as powerful as your PC. Everything's going to be on low, and then we're going to test out 720, 900, and 1080p here, which we're going to go ahead and look at my settings right now, starting with the display settings. This is just confirming 720p for one of them, but I'll have everything else labeled. The only other thing I wanted to showcase was the fact that the render scale is unbalanced. I will showcase a little bit of footage. I won't be talking during it, but I'll just be showcasing what it looks like when you change between essentially super performance and super quality here, because it does affect this a lot. After that, we have graphics. Everything's going to be on low or lowest. The only other thing I would say to look at that you could change would be the sharpness based off whether or not it's not to your liking with that balanced setting. And then this is just the lower portion of the graphic settings here. Only other thing I would want to note is I do have anti-aliasing turned on here. So you can adjust some of this stuff to your liking. Just keep in mind it's going to cause a performance hit as you're going from low all the way up to medium, and especially obviously high and ultra here, with some of the stuff not really mattering because it's going to be something that the resolution increasing would improve anyways. And that's something you can test out on your own beyond this video. This is just kind of like, hey, this is my set point, which is if you do turn some of these on more towards a medium or a high, or turn certain things on but keep the resolution lower, like 720p, how much of a performance hit does that take where you can kind of equal some of these things out? I think it's better to keep everything low and then again just increase the resolution. So if you go from 720 to 900p, the visual fidelity increases. As you go from 900 to 1080p, it increases even more, but of course you take a performance hit. You get like a in-between buffer with these settings where as you adjust them, you can kind of take 720p and make it look visually closer to 900p without quite the performance hit potentially. That just becomes murky because as I go over the numbers, I'm going to shift into that now, you will see that in some regards they are pretty close between 720 and 900p. So 900p definitely seems like a good sweet spot when it comes to this, both for plugged in and unplugged. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm just going to showcase more general based numbers, because if I give you hard concrete numbers, it's going to fluctuate while you're playing. So 30 watt versus 25 watt here, again with the settings that I have, and you do have fidelity super resolution turned on in the ROG software. But with this 720p at 30 watts, so low 40s when you're in action, and then it's 40 for the low that I saw, 50 for the high. So those are the extremes here. Jumping to 900p, it's going to be low 40s when in action, and then I saw 35 for a low, 47 for a high. Keep in mind with all of these as well, it's based off the action because I can't replicate it every single time. That's going to be extremely hard. So these are just, again, general numbers that I saw when I would get in combat. 1080p, low 30s in action, and then 28 was the lowest number that I saw, and 42 was the highest. Shifting over to 25 watts, 720p, high in the 30s to low 40s when you're in action, and then it was 34 for the low, 45 for the high. 900p was low 40s in action, 31 for the low, 45 for the high. Interesting here was that when I actually was just traveling from one location to another, it stayed low 30s. My only thought there was as you would go into more open terrain, and I did see this with some of the other resolutions and even at 30 watts, it would just take a bigger hit because there's more draw distance in a larger open area. And being in combat, it just seems like I'm in tighter quarters, which I think is by design with the game. So in terms of just pure distance that it has to render, it's not quite the same. So that's kind of the only thing I could think of here, even though in action it seems like there's a lot more going on. And of course, if you're just like overwhelmed, you're going to get larger drops in the FPS here, but I just wasn't expecting that to happen when there's nothing going on and I'm just simply running from one location to another. But again, I think that is because there's just visually more that it's trying to render and put on the screen here. And then 1080p at 25 watts, low to mid 30s in action, 31 for the low, 37 for the high. Now comparing these 30 to 25 watts here, I can't replicate them exactly. It's just, hey, what are we seeing in action and what are we seeing for a low and a high? So here I think 900p is definitely the sweet spot. When you're at 720p, things seem to be a little bit more pixelated. I mean, that's just because the resolution is lower, but you visually will notice that. If you're looking at 1080p, it's going to be the best visually, but you're also dealing in low 30s when in action, and that's fine because I mean, we used to just play games on 30 FPS all the time, but I would prefer 40s because it just is a little bit smoother when it comes to this game because there's so much action going on. But of course, this is going to boil down to your personal preference. This is just me showcasing the numbers, and I am done talking now. So the rest of the video is just going to be footage labeled, showcasing the different watts and the resolution here. You will be able to see the performance metrics on the right-hand side if you want to take a look at those while it's playing as well. And if you have any questions about this, let me know in the comment section, and thank you so much for watching. One last side note here, actually, I did want to talk about this really quick because I'm going to get eaten up in the comments alive on this one. I'm off to the side because the camera's in front right now, and I'm trying to look at a 7-inch screen trying to play this game. It's very hard for me to read the stratagems in terms of the inputs that you need to give. So if you'll notice, like sometimes I mess that up quite a bit. It's just hard for me to see because it's not directly in front of me. And it's also very hard to play this game when you're off to the side and there's so much going on. So I'm not going to be doing very well in this at all. So just wanted to clarify there. If you're playing in front, everything's easy to see. There is no issue, but wanted to talk about that before. Like I said, everybody in the comment section was saying how bad I am at this game.